everyone. Welcome to Georgia Living Podcast, episode 25, Hashbrowns, Tariffs, and Deck Holes.
I don't know if that's going to be the final title of this.
It is the title
It is now. Oh, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, or evening, depending upon when you're listening to this.
Yep.
It's been a little crazy around the Evans household over the past week. We are in spring break, so ever since Friday afternoon, our kids have been bouncing off the walls.
I wish I had that much time.
Well, you've actually been using your time pretty wisely lately because you've picked up a new hobby.
I know, oil painting.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
And
it's like, you mess up and then the whole thing falls apart.
But I think what I'm really enjoying about your new hobby is the adventure of watching like you create these images. Like you just did one of Fielding Lewis, who is Fielding Lewis is a historical. It was George Washington's brother-in-law,
sister's husband.
Yeah, so brother-in-law,
something like that.
GW, the original, and the one oil painting that exists that is published for him looks awful. Right, they took the angle of his face in the original setting, and it's like they put it on a body that's going the opposite direction.
No, honey, he looks a little cross-eyed.
Well, he looks cross-eyed too.
Something ain't right.
So the work that you did was your interpretation of it because it's art, and it looks spectacular. And I think it's going to be a great tribute to your DAR.
His cross-eyed face, but I wanted to paint it, and then I finished it and I got satisfied because his eyes were looking the same way, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, what am I supposed to do with a Fielding Lewis portrait that's, giant in my, now he lives with us.
Yeah, it's all right because our house is going to slowly become full of oil paintings at this point. I love it. The kids have been running around, bouncing off the walls. Surprisingly, they wanted to spend some time with me this weekend. Got out, did some work around the boat. Clare was up there, my little 7-year-old.
So it's a deck boat, right?
Yes.
It's not a pontoon boat, it's a deck boat, and it's one of those where it's like a...
It's like a pontoon.
Party barge?
It's a party barge, yeah. It's got a Honda 130 on it. It's a 22-foot deck boat on like a V-hull. And it's basically a pontoon layout. Yeah. So we jump off of it, we can cruise on it, we can pull the tube. But this weekend we were getting it cleaned up. So last week I started wrapping the boat and giving it a new exterior. We got our new stickers on there. And
I'm so excited about the fish finder that you put on there.
I put the fish finder on.
I love fishing.
I've got to just mount the transducer on the back, and then everything else is done with the fish finder. But this weekend we did the cleaning. So we were scrubbing off the seats. The girls wanted to help, so they were going behind me with the magic eraser after I'd cleaned it off the first round and really getting it clean. And then Claire was all about scrubbing the deck. Like, she wanted to scrub the deck of the boat.
Is that how this happened?
Well, no, this happened. She happened later, but she was scrubbing the deck.
Coming in with tears, so I got the very last end of the story.
So they have a lot of fun, like playing and helping me clean the boat. Then they go in, they have lunch. I'm still working, and I'm switching tasks now. So I'm going from cleaning to now working on it, and I'm installing the fish finder. And to do that, I have to run a cable from the back entrance of the boat, where all the lines come in from the motor, up to the helm through the hull.
Yeah,
right?
You had me help you on that one.
Yes. Well, in order to do that, we have these little access ports. They're the little things they screw off, and I can kind of see around what's going in there. Ran the snake, and I had the ports open, and Claire had to be on the boat. So while I'm working, she comes up and she goes, "Can I be up here?" I said, "Sure, sit down," because there's lots of holes open on the floor. You got to watch your step. I say that, she turns around, and the first step she makes puts her leg through the hole, scraping up her knee. She was all right. Like, it didn't break skin or anything, but it shocked her and spooked her.
She was terrified.
She was. And, it was all she talked about for, like, the next 24 hours.
The black hole.
The boat hole.
The port hole.
Yeah. So we got all that done this week. We're spring break, but around here we're also in selling season for real estate. So we're not traveling this week. Hopefully I'll have the tune-up done on the boat. I'm waiting for a few parts to come in, including the oil. As soon as that comes in, we'll do that, and maybe we'll get out on the lake, weather permitting.
Yeah, we've got some great lakes around here. There's Lake Allatoona. If you travel a little bit further, there's Lake Lanier.
Yep.
And then there's Carter's Lake as well, which is one of our favorites.
Yeah.
It's the deepest.
Carter's is the deepest in the state of Georgia. It's, I think, the deepest man-made lake or natural. I don't remember Carter's.
No, Lanier is man-made because
Lanier is man-made.
Cities, yes.
Carter's has a dam also.
Oh. Yeah, they do.
So,
which do you like fishing in better?
Well, I got about a equal record. I don't fish a lot on lakes,
No.
so like my boating knowledge and fishing knowledge from a boat in Georgia lakes is kind of pathetic.
I've got to admit, we're pretty bad at boat fishing.
Yeah, like
pretty bad.
I've caught a gar.
That was scary.
I've caught a few bass. I've caught.
So I had no idea gars existed, right? So gars, if you can imagine, this needle-nosed like dolphin with a whole bunch of scary teeth on it, and then let it decay and then make it this ugly brown color. That's a gar. I don't like them.
Well, I just don't like their teeth.
Oh God, yeah.
Like
you just wanted your lure back.
I did, and fortunately, when I caught that, we kept gloves, like sharp protection gloves, in the boat.
Oh, yes. Are you looking up a gar?
Yeah, making sure that was a gar.
Oh yeah, it was.
Well, there's others.
Stuff
yeah,
made out of nightmares. I mean, there are different types of gars, I think.
There are, and
the lake one was not nice.
Let's see. I'm pretty sure it was a gar, but I'm just double checking because
you're gonna go in a fish black hole.
Yeah, I'll be down there. Never mind. All right,
so there just like Clare.
We've got to talk about a few things here. One, on this episode, we're going to get into the economy a litlittle bit. We're going to come at you a little bit later. We're going to go through tariffs, what this means, kind of things that you can do to protect yourself. Things you need to know about what is crazy, what is sky is falling, who's Chicken Little, and who's kind of giving you a lowdown on what's really happening.
There's so much information out there, and it's so hard to decipher what to listen to, what not to, what to ignore.
But before we do that, we're going to go into we're going to cover a couple of articles that we did here with our companies. But the first one is the Georgia population boom and bust. So there is an estimate that came out, a population estimate came out by the Georgia, who is this?
Office of Planning and Budget?
Yes. It's right there in front of me. Thank you, honey. The Georgia Office of Planning and Budget came out with their predictions for each county in the state of Georgia from 2024 to 2060. So in this list, we're going to talk about the 10 fastest growing and the 10 slowest growing or shrinking counties in the state of Georgia. Céline, why don't we start off with the shrinking ones?
Okay.
Why don't you start us off? Yeah, let's go backwards. We'll do these are the counties in Georgia where populations are leaving.
All right. So first of all, we all know that Georgia has the most number of counties, right?
159 counties.
Even though I was born and raised here, there's always a county that really surprises me because I've never heard of it before. Out of the 159. Every single time I read a list, there's one county that pops out, and I'm like, where are y'all? I think you're from Massachusetts. They didn't have that many counties.
No.
No, I mean, they're split up way less.
Yeah.
All right, so some of these I've heard of, some of these I haven't, but I promise, as a lifelong Georgian, I will look it up and I will know where you are. I do know north, east, south, and west.
Well, and for anybody who wants to see the full list and the details, you can go to selectrealty.com in the blog. It's on the main page today, and the article is called "Georgia's Population Forecast to 2060s: Counties Ranked by Projected Change."
Okay, so we'll go from 150 to 159. It is Telfair, Wilcox, Whitman, Dooley, Calhoun, Clay, Taliaferro, Stewart, Miller, and then the very last one is Randolph.
So to give you an idea of these county populations, Telfair is projected to go from population of 10,931 to 8,228 over the next by 2060. And then our lowest performing county here, Randolph County, is projected to go from 6,014 residents to 4,282. So a lot of these smaller counties, these are kind of more rural, well, very rural.
Very. So I
agricultural areas.
Randolph, which, I hadn't heard of before. I'm sure I've read it on a map before. And this is west of Albany, south of Lumpkin, southwest of Plains, where we had President Jimmy Carter, and then south of Columbus. So really between Columbus and the Panhandle, where Tallahassee is.
Oh yeah, there's all of this. The small counties that are seeing population decline are in southern Georgia. So we have, if you go to the article, you'll actually see a map. And on that map, you can see where all of these counties are. So your Clay County, Miller, Calhoun, Stewart, Dooley, and Wilcox are all in southeast or southwest Georgia, kind of surrounding Americus, south of Columbus, and southwest of Albany and west of Albany. So those kind of areas, as you get closer to the border with Dothan, Alabama, a lot of those Georgia counties are experiencing decline. All right. Best populations. So right. Fastest growing. What's going to be the place to be if you want that equity over the next 40 years?
What is your guess? The number one county.
So I don't have to guess because I did this, but I would have thought Cherokee County would have ranked higher.
All right. I'll read it off. From number 10 to number 1. Okay, so Walton, Jackson, Bryan, Coweta, Columbia, Henry, Cherokee.
There's our neighbor.
Forsyth, Fulton, and Gwinnett.
Wow, Gwinnett?
Gwinnett.
Yeah, that.
I can see it though.
I can see it. I was surprised because I hate the traffic on the 85 corridor, but there is a lot of development happening over there. Every time you go up 85, there's a new thing growing.
There's always construction.
And it's really the corridor between North Carolina and Atlanta is growing stronger.
The growth between Athens and Atlanta.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So let's get an idea of where these counties are going. Let's start with number 10, Walton County. Today's population 108,316, 108,000, projected to be 152,716 by 2016. That's a growth of 44,000. Jackson County, projected growth 70,500, going from 90,000 to 160,000. Bryan County, projected growth of 42,533. This is a Savannah spillover. So this is Bryan County is down by Savannah. It's coastal, and that's one of the reasons we're seeing the growth there. Coweta County, 64,000. Again, an I-85 corridor heating up. Supposed to be 223,000 citizens there by 2060.
Wow.
Columbia County, right out Metro Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we were there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Tech jobs, military bases, school system. It's a family favorite, and they're expected to grow 66,000 by 2060 to a population of 233,384. Henry County, on the south side, getting our development going on over there with all investment and infrastructure from the movie industry. looking to gain 152,000 people by 2060. So Henry County currently at 257,000. By 2060, 410,000. Here's our neighbor, Cherokee County. Currently today, 291,000. By 2060, 431,379. Forsyth, aiming to grow 227,000. I can see this. It's currently at 279. By 2060, the population is predicted to be 506,000. Fulton County, looking at 255,000 by 2060 to bring the population to 1.349 million. And then Gwinnett, currently at 992,000, looking to bring 262,000 people to the county by 2060, making
That's
it
incredible.
1.25 million.
So what do you notice on these lists?
Well, I'm not seeing Cobb in the top 10.
I'm not either.
Which is kind of disappointing.
But it makes sense to me.
It does.
It?
Well, I mean, Cobb County's already at a high population,
Yes.
and our land is really tough. So I don't see our population growing as fast as some of the other areas because land is cheaper elsewhere.
It is. And also, you know, a lot of people here have the mindset of they don't want higher density housing in Cobb County. There's been a lot of pushback against that. Now, there's certain areas that they're for it, but because Cobb County is very large. But, you know, well, Fulton too. But they also approve higher density housing. So, yeah, I'm surprised and not surprised that Cobb County is not on the 10 fastest growing counties.
Yeah, I think we're definitely growing. We're definitely getting a lot of development happening. Like, I don't know if you caught this, but the Braves just purchased Pennant Park.
They did, didn't they?
So we've got an article on that on toacommercial.com if you're interested in how that goes. But it's like a 35-acre complex, over 700,000 square feet.
It's next door, right?
Of office. It's so not next door. It's on the other side of 75.
Okay.
So when you're looking at Truist Park, think on the backside around Windy Ridge.
Oh.
Where the Boy Scouts building is.
Yes.
Behind the Boy Scouts building. I think the Scout, well, it's Scouting of America now, I think is the new name. But behind their headquarters, I think that's Pennant Park. So they've got 35 acres to expand. The Braves are on fire. We just brought a bunch of new companies to Cobb County as their headquarter. So I think
we're talking about
fine.
Population, though, and housing.
Yeah, this is population growth.
Yeah, and it still doesn't, even with all that, it still doesn't surprise me because I've long heard rhetoric about not wanting high density housing here.
Yeah.
Have you? I mean, that's kind of what you've heard in the general population, right? They want to keep it.
Marietta specifically.
Yeah.
Marietta specifically has been anti-high density housing for as long as I can remember. Like if you want apartment complexes in Marietta, it's got to be close to Smyrna. It's got to be Austell, Mableton. It's got to be Kennesaw.
Yeah.
Like those just get approved so much easier because of just the way Marietta has set their zoning.
Well, one of the main arguments is schooling. You know, you don't want to overload the school systems either. You know, what can handle it, what can't. But then again, you know, I don't know. There's just kind of been a we don't want apartment sentiment here.
Yeah. This area has been single-family residential primarily.
Very long time.
Forever.
Yeah.
Like it's never, Marietta has never allowed serious development. They've never,
there were farms before that.
They've never allowed more than like a 4-story building. Like
Yeah.
you have to get that closer to the city. They want to keep their residential areas residential.
You know, it reminds me of Paris because you might think, what the heck, right? But think about it. The Eiffel Tower is this beaming tower that was supposed to be for the World's Fair, only supposed to be up for 20 years, but it stayed, right? So, but with the building codes there, the buildings don't rise above the Eiffel Tower, right? But in Japan, the Eiffel Tower, there's one there. It's called Tokyo Tower. It's red and white for Japan, and it's a working antenna. During the 60s, it was a big deal. Because it was really tall. But now, because they don't have those laws, it's dwarfed.
Yeah, you can't really see it unless you, like, you could be 2 streets over from it and you won't see it.
You wouldn't know that it's there until you round the corner. You're like, wow.
There it is. Oh, yeah, that looks big.
But it's not as tall as I thought it would be, you know? And then when you tell people that it's the same height as the Eiffel Tower, they go, no way, you know?
Right.
Which means that everything else in perspective is way taller. But anyways, it's kind of like that, to where a certain area, you know, if they don't want something like the height or the density,
the voters vote for it. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that Marietta and Cobb are going to have as a challenge anyway is the valuations, because the proximity to Atlanta is causing our real estate pricing to go up and up and up. The proximity of our school district is a high demand. Right, Cobb County is one of the best performing school districts in the state of Georgia.
It's so easy to commute to Atlanta from where we
actually,
are.
It doesn't surprise me that Forsyth County is on this as well, because they have a fantastic school system and they are right on the lake. So they've got kind of the best of both worlds. You know, one of the challenges we're going to have with population is it is becoming more and more expensive to live here. So lots of long-time people at lower income brackets are going to be forced to relocate.
You mean when their rent is up? And
as rents grow up, as properties go up. I mean, you and I talked. If we were 7 years ago today, we wouldn't be able to buy where we are today.
Well, I wouldn't want to.
Well,
it would just be too expensive and it wouldn't make sense.
It's one of those things that the numbers wouldn't have made sense today like they did then.
Correct.
Right. And with real estate, we always want the house to be a blessing, not a burden. That's the same thing with our family. We never take on high leveraged positions where, you know, a jolt in cash flow can really tank you. We've got a lot of challenges that's going on. If you want to read the full article, go to selectrealty.com to find out the 10 best or 10 fastest growing and 10 fastest shrinking counties in the state of Georgia.
Well, talking about jolts, there's a lot of volatility lately.
Oh my, well, I think it's been a quiet news cycle. No, it's definitely been insane. I mean, you and I.
So we have a habit of watching Bloomberg every morning, just because it's our preferred news medium.
We follow markets.
We follow markets and data, and it really just has become a family affair. All of us,
Scarlett,
all 5 of us, watch Bloomberg every morning, and it forces us to look at things in a little bit more simple ways, because they ask, what's going on? You know, what does this mean? And then we always have to say, okay, well, yeah, it means this, you know, in a little bit more elementary way, because they are an elementary school.
Yes.
So, tariffs. Can you explain what a tariff is?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we need basics first, right?
So, a tariff is it is a tool used in international trade for governments to equalize value of trade. So let's say that I'm going to export 100 pounds of goods to you, Céline, and you're going to export 25 pounds of goods to me.
Okay.
But
you've exported 75 pounds more than me.
And let's say that everything has a $1 value. So I'm exporting $100 to you, and I'm getting $25 back in return. Well, in order to balance out that trade, I can tax or tariff that import and charge you because you're not giving me as much. So we have a trade imbalance. And historically, the United States has been absolutely reckless with its use of debt. If you were to put the United States budget in perspective as a homeowner, I'm pretty sure you would be bankrupt within about 10 years. and because we're spending 106% of what we make, so essentially we're going to be even $4.5 trillion in debt within the next 20 years, I think is the projection, which at that point will be unsustainable. We're getting to the point where our debt we can't manage it anymore. So we have to look at a way to restructure that as a country. Is the strategy that's being implemented the right one? I'm not the person to answer that. But as a policy and as an issue, these are big problems. And historically, for the executive office, if they are going to negotiate trade deals, that is the job of the president. They have the most influence on foreign policy. If they're going to negotiate trade deals, oftentimes, there's nothing that is forcing the other country to come to the table and agree to something quickly. Enter in the tariffs. We have seen basically from early February with Donald Trump that he will use these tariffs and threats of tariffs as a backstop to speed up the negotiation of trade. Think about it this way. If somebody says that they are going to light a pile of money on fire, and there's somebody on the other side of the table that wants that money, they are likely to enter into that conversation to try and get the person to not light the money on fire. That's basically what is happening here. Trump has already said that he is willing to renegotiate these tariffs if these countries come to the trade table or come to the negotiating table with a way to balance out the United States trade deficit. So Vietnam already came to the table right after announcement, said, hey, we are willing to go to a zero tariff deal with the United States because we value the United States.
And then Nike and Lululemon,
Nike. Why? Because their manufacturing process takes place in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of moving parts that are happening right here. This is not it kind of is and it isn't, but the big picture here is this is not a madman on a mission looking to destroy America. That's the big thing. There are very smart people in play here, lots of CEOs, analysts at Bloomberg. They are all in line with saying we do need to renegotiate our trade as a nation. How we do it and the impact of that, it's going to hurt. Anytime you shift the way that an economy works, things slow down.
There's always going to be discussion of, what's the best method on how to do it. I don't think everyone would ever agree completely.
I don't think that you can disrupt the world trade economy without causing negative economic effects, because what's going to happen is we have built our economy on the way that it works today, or I guess the way that it worked last week. Well, tomorrow is tariff day. I think it all goes into effect on the 9th.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So after tomorrow, our world economy is going to operate differently if these go into effect. Now, if countries come back and say, hey, let's talk this through, we'll come to the table, we may get a pushback. Expect that. That's the volatility. Stock market was up 5% in 20 minutes yesterday because somebody said, oh, we think that Trump's going to postpone it 90 days. Then the White House said that they're not, and it added $3 trillion to the market and took away $2.5 trillion to the market in 20 minutes.
And the volatility index is at 50 or something like that right now.
Yes. So there's insanity happening here. And if we're going to approach economics with a level head, we know that there is going to be pain because the corporations and the companies that are operating today and their analysis of their valuation today is based off of today's operating economy. Tomorrow that changes. Analysts don't know how this impacts yet, and they're not going to know for months because they study data. And lots of data is lagging indicators.
To be fair, that's the case for everything with lagging indicators.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're not going to... The dust is going to take a while to settle on this.
Always does.
Is this a buy the dip moment? I don't think so. I think if you look at where the S&P is, we've reversed in time no more than a year. We're back down to the levels that we were in 2024. That is not a reset. If we're going to look at a real reset of the markets, we're probably going to see some pain, and I would imagine that our S&P can go down as low as like 4,200, and that would put us back a few years. But the challenge that we're going to have is, how do these tariffs impact Georgia? So last week, I put together a compilation of data. This data is taking the tariff proposals, and then I have cross-referenced that with the market performance of different sectors for the state of Georgia from the where was that from? That was from the Georgia. So we did the data from the Federal Reserve, CFO survey of data and results. We have the Georgia Ports Authority, so the performance of our Georgia port here in Savannah, data for the long-term budget outlook from the Congressional Budget Office, the University of Georgia's Terry College of Business Selig Center's 2025 overall U.S. and Georgia economic outlook, the United States Trade Representative, Office of the U.S. Trade Representative strategic plan from 2013 to 2017 and 2022 to 2026, and then the harmonized tariff schedule of the United States, which is the revision 6. And they set forth the tariff rates and statistical categories. So we took all of this data, we compiled it, and we tried to figure out, all right, what are our opportunities, what are our challenges, and how is this going to impact specifically Georgia? So the data, basically, we're dealing with a few things here. And one, if you want to read this full white paper, this is published on our holding company website, which is hshbrands.com. I will have a link to the article in the show notes. Basically, the tariff data, we're dealing with ongoing trade tensions. Targeted tariffs have provided selective protections to some U.S. industries. However, there are some larger concerns over retaliation, complex supply chain, and higher consumer prices, and we're likely to get that. The CBO, Congressional Budget Office, forecast rising federal debt levels, elevated deficits, higher interest obligations. Basically, we're taking on more debt at a higher interest rate. We're going to have to pay that. Tariff policy could still become entangled in deficit reduction or revenue negotiations. So this could be, as they go through and figure this out, there's lots of different areas that they can kind of mix and mingle to create what our next version of American economic policy is going to look like. The UGA's forecast projects the national economy in 2025 to slow to 1.6% GDP growth without necessarily entering a recession. They are saying that there's about a 25% probability. From Bloomberg, we're hearing that more CEOs are saying that they feel like we are in a recession right now, but that requires 2 quarters of negative consecutive growth. So if we had Q2 with negative growth, then we're officially in a recession. Georgia Ports Authority, container trade at the Port of Savannah increased 22.5% from this March, aided by front-loading orders to avoid prospective tariffs and continued cargo divisions from West Coast ports. So we saw a big increase with the threats of tariffs. Georgia is one of the biggest ports, and fast intermodal transfers are underscoring Georgia's competitive logistics environment. CFO survey data by the Federal Reserve Bank revealed a decline in CFO optimism. They went from 66% were optimistic now to 62.1%, many citing tariff and macro policy. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this because I don't want to put you all to sleep this morning, but we're going to talk through a couple of things here. So the implications for tariff policy, short term, if no abrupt tariff escalations occur, Georgia's economy can ride its above-average momentum. Right, Georgia is predicted to outpace the economy with growth, but these tariffs or retaliations pose downside risks. So investor sentiment and exports could be a challenge. Medium term, the federal deficit pressures might force change legislation. For Georgia exporters, we're looking for stable or lower tariffs in new trade agreements, which could open additional foreign demand from our peanuts and our cotton and everything, our pecans, everything that we do here in Georgia. And then long term, we're going to need evolving alliances, nearshoring initiatives, so bringing things closer to the U.S. and back onshore. National security considerations may shape U.S. tariffs, with Georgia logistics and manufacturing poised to benefit from proactive strategic policy. So there are opportunities here where Georgia could make some significant inroads for our economy. And putting it all into Georgia's economic context, the port of Savannah moved 534,000. What is a TEU?
Those are units.
Yes. So 534,000 units this March. That's up 22.5%. Rail efficiency. So the Mason Mega Rail Terminal hit a new high of 52,000 rail moves, backed by a 22-hour average dwell time. Employment and income, over 609,000 Georgia jobs hinge on port activities with a $40 billion income footprint. The Georgia Port Authority's $4.2 billion infrastructure expansion aims to bolster future capacity. So the good news here is Georgia has been putting in the R&D basically into preparing itself for the next generation.
What's R&D for people?
Research and development. They've
go.
been investing in their infrastructure. It's good stuff.
I've got to say, kudos to you for going for this degree that studies this stuff, because it's warm in here and it's getting a little
you getting a little sleepy
listening to you, and yes, but no, this information is absolutely, critical, but I'm sure there are people out there like me who...
So basically, we have about 600,000 jobs here in Georgia that depend on our international trade and import-export. The Port Authority, that's our biggest thing. We're one of the lucky states that have a port, so we are going to be impacted, but the Céline Center at UGA is predicting that Georgia's GDP is going to grow 2.4%. That's the total output of our state, while the national growth is going to be 1.6%.
So Georgia's going to be doing better.
Wherever we end up, we are expected to be outpacing the national average.
I can follow
significantly.
that.
That's basically, if you walk away with nothing else from this. If you like data, you want to go through all of it, there's a big white paper on hshbrands.com, and then we're working to put that into a more consumer-friendly article for selectrealty.com.
Well, but, they're different types of people, and definitely they're a huge group of people like you who love the data, who love spreadsheets, who love all these things,
I think
numbers.
We're a small minority. I really do.
I'm biology. Of course, I understand this, but also at the same time, I'm human. So, yes, if any of y'all fell asleep during all that, you're in good company.
You never have a hard time falling asleep.
No.
I can just read some of my white papers to you. All right, so CEOs... on Bloomberg this morning, we heard the commentary that several of the CEOs, lots of them, J.P. Morgan,
some said the R word.
They're saying it more frequently.
Yeah.
And recession. So, want to do a bonus segment for everybody today because we are very experienced millennials here. We graduated in the
recession,
in the middle of the global financial crisis. One of us with a degree in finance, of all things, really needed back then. So we started out our young lives with that. So I want to talk about 5 smart moves that can prepare your finances for a potential recession. So hopefully you can start making some moves now to just make sure you're set if we get there.
The biggest thing is to not panic, though, because...
What? The sky is falling.
Don't panic. No.
Sell everything. Buy hundreds of pounds of beans and put it in your garage.
So we're not fortune tellers, and if we were,
definitely
we would be somewhere else on a private island. But that also means that there's certain trends in humanity, I guess, and in history, and history repeats itself. People don't change, right? I mean, you are who you are. So one of the things is the R word, recession. And so people kind of don't want to talk about it's like little whispers, right? Yeah. You start hearing it and then you're like, oh, did they really say that? And then you hear it more and more and more banter and you're like, oh, maybe more people are actually, getting on this tweeting, not Twitter, but, like saying it more and more. And then it kind of, you have self-fulfilling prophecies too. So,
you do.
That's also a possibility, but we're getting a little jittery too. A little bit.
Well, we're cautiously optimistic is the way that I would put it.
Yes.
And whenever you can't control what other people do, but you can control your reaction. So we're making sure that we're taken care of. And I think that, there's a lot of people don't talk about finances. So it
seems like dirty laundry, doesn't it? Like undergarments.
I don't know. Have you seen the memes where it's like it breaks down the
don't talk about politics at dinner time?
The poor, the middle class, and then the rich, and it talks about how similar the poor and the rich are, and the middle class is just kind of over here doing their thing. Where like the poor and the rich, like you don't see their dishwasher. The poor don't have it. The rich put a panel on it. Right? Mm-hmm. And like there's things like that. Those memes were popular like a year or two ago. But I think it goes similar with finance. The poor talk about money all the time. They don't have it. They talk about getting it or their challenges with it. The wealthy talk about money all the time. Not their personal, but their investments and their strategy and their, what they're doing. Middle class doesn't talk about money. I grew up in a middle class home. We didn't talk about money. And I think that's one of the biggest downsides to growing up middle class is that you don't learn how it works because you're taught you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about finances, you don't talk about whatever it is. You just avoid those. And it ends up that you become illiterate or ignorant to the fact of you could be doing things differently.
It's financial illiteracy.
So if you have not tackled your finances, if you haven't looked into it, here's a couple of things that you want to do. Céline, why don't you go through this list? I've talked way too much this episode.
Well, these are things that even though, I said I'm getting a little jittery, but all these things really, they're not going to hurt you either. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to buy the things that you absolutely have to buy. Like if your AC goes out in the middle of summer here, there's no way you're going to survive until next year. You're going to have to get it fixed.
Exactly.
So number one is going to be rebuild that emergency fund, and you're going to aim for 3 to 6 months of living expenses, especially if your income is commission-based, which means that you don't get a steady paycheck.
Absolutely.
This is very difficult to imagine for a lot of people, 3 to 6 months. It's a huge mountain because you need that mountain to protect you, but getting there when a lot of people are already, pinching pennies is a daunting thought, but I know you can do it.
And this is one of those core foundations to like having good finances. The very first step that you do to get ahead of your game is to start having an emergency fund, because if things go south,
be your own bank.
If you've got an unexpected car repair. Well, instead of putting it on the credit card where you're charged 29% interest,
right,
you take it out of your emergency fund.
Your emergency bank with 0 interest.
With 0 interest, and you pay yourself back.
Yeah.
So you put it back in the emergency fund as soon as you have it, instead of paying off a credit card and then adding interest to it. So when we first did this, the first step was getting $1,000 and just having $1,000 that was there in case of an emergency. Then it was a month. Then it was 2 months. Then it was 3 months. Now it's a year. And it will never be lower than a year, because if something goes wrong, I want to be able to access those funds. If the the company closes or everything, the economy tanks again. We want to be okay, and we don't want to lose our investments. We don't want it to impact our kids. So that was a big thing for us.
But this rebuilding or bulking up is definitely something that takes time. So don't beat yourself up if you're saying, oh my gosh, this is unattainable to me, and then quit even thinking about it because you think it's unattainable. Little steps at a time.
Small steps. Exactly.
Yep.
For all of the entrepreneurs that I know, we all know the saying, how do you eat an elephant? And it's one bite at a time. Just put a little bit aside every time you can, and it'll eventually grow.
So little at a time also means that you have to cut the creep.
Oh, yeah.
So cutting the creep, right now, it is TV subscriptions.
So many of them.
Yes. And, when memes start coming out about them, jokes about them, about how many we have, there's a flip side to it that people are like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have this many. It's a little too much.
One thing I like to do, I'll rotate my subscriptions. Like, I'll run Paramount Plus for a while, and then when we go through the seasons of the shows that we want to watch there, we'll stop that and we'll switch over to like Max. So I'm not constantly paying for things that I'm not using.
I didn't know that happened in our house because I don't even know how to turn the TV on. It's really complicated.
I grew up with the frustration of being the guy that knows technology, and I sealed my fate. So yeah, you want to look at your subscriptions, memberships, auto renewals. Small leaks will sink ships. So if you're having trouble building up this emergency fund, think about what is essential. And I know this day and age, everything feels essential because of how close advertisers are to you. But you don't need 1 million subscriptions.
No, I mean, think about the behemoth in the room, right? Amazon. Do you need Amazon? There are a lot of people who say they don't.
Mom doesn't have a Prime subscription. Okay. Mom goes to the store whenever she needs something.
There you go. I mean, it really depends on your lifestyle and what you are doing, and just make sure that it doesn't amount to the elephant, don't add one bite at a time.
We go through this every couple of years or so, and we'll analyze all of our spend. We'll find things that we're not using anymore, and we get rid of it because we don't want to continue just throwing money away. And this is one of the biggest challenges today. You don't have to go out and buy a subscription that's going to tell you where you're spending your money. You just have to look at your statement on your bank every month. And then if you go into your phone, go to your subscriptions, it'll tell you what you're subscribed to. You can cancel them there. You don't have to pay for services to do this stuff for you. You just put the work in. It takes time, but you can do it.
The one thing that I really have a problem with, though, is the cars that require you to have a subscription for it to keep working. That doesn't make sense to me. That's a side note, though.
What bothers me more about cars is people who take on debt for them.
That's a whole nother show. Let's talk about big purchases like cars. Delay them unless it's strategic. So big purchases can have tax benefits, can have other benefits as well,
yes.
Which is a separate group and is separate from what we're talking about. We're talking about, larger purchases like, well, art can be an investment too, depending on what it is. But say you just want to add another column in your house for some reason and you want it in the middle of your living room. Delay that big purchase because you know what? That might be a one-night want.
Now is not the time to go out and buy the brand new boat. Okay. Yeah. If a professional is telling you, hey, you need to go out and buy a new vehicle for the financial benefits of doing so, great, go buy a new vehicle. But if you are just tired of your car because it's 4 or 5 years old and you don't like the maintenance on it,
you don't like the color blue,
but it's paid off, keep the car. Now's not the time. Give it a little while, let the dust settle, and figure out. You might save a lot of money by waiting 6 months.
I love old cars so much.
Oh, me too.
I really do. And really, the more dented, the more you don't care that people run into you or anything like that. So, I mean, yeah.
You want to twist that knife a little more? I'm still looking for a door for the Land Cruiser.
He wrecked my car.
I didn't wreck it. You could still drive it. Diversify your...
Open the front door.
You can now. I fixed it.
You want to go to diversifying income because you want to make sure that you don't put all of your eggs in one basket. That is a big no-no. That is one of the happiest things that we like about our relationship is that I'm not in the same field I am now, but my education is not the same as yours,
Sure.
And then it's nice because it complements each other from two totally different fields. But what if your income is based off of something like that? Meaning, you're in one industry and that's it. What if it fails?
So this is a great opportunity for me to talk to fellow real estate agents out there. If you're working for a company who has given you a lot of stock, you have something that is called, what is it? It is, I just lost it. It'll come back to me. But you have risk because your job is tied to that company, right? And you also have risk that company could go under because of the market. And what happens when the stock market dips and you lose your job? You are double hit.
That's what I mean.
Yes. And it's concentration risk. That's the phrase. So you have concentration risk in your portfolio because you are heavily relying upon the company you work for your retirement and also your employment. And when one goes down, the other goes down. And guess what?
You were all in.
You've been all in. So I learned this lesson in the tech bubble of 2001 because Dad was in the tech sector. And lots of people, fortunately not him, but lots of people were working for startups. Lots of people had stock options and equity in the company. And then the company went under. And what happens when that? Everything goes away. So you just need to be smart about where you're going and where your money is. So there's a great book that I read in college called The Millionaire Next Door. And they said that the average millionaire has about 6 or 7 sources of income. They're diversifying where it's coming from. They're not making, well, back then they weren't making $300,000 a year. Your average millionaire was making under $100,000. And they were just saving and investing, not spending. So all those subscriptions you've got, put that into the stock market instead. Now, maybe not now, but when you're diversifying your income, these are things like maybe you have a side hustle. Maybe you're investing in real estate, or you have cars that you're turoing, or you have Airbnbs that you're doing, whatever it is.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Ubering, guys.
No.
Like, it's, to me, I see as, it's like you're doing what you have to do, and kind of like what you did in college as well, that we wrote in our book. From the ground up, it chronicles, how we started with real estate, and we even had to borrow money for a down payment when I was 22. But to make the bills, because we didn't put anything on a credit card, we did one time, but that's also it's in the story.
Learn that lesson.
One of the things that you did was drive cars at an auction.
Yeah, I mean, there were no jobs in the area because everybody had them, and a college student wasn't getting them. So I was driving cars at an auto auction, just up on to where people bid, and then drive it back and park it 2 nights a week for $25 a night. I mean, it paid a power bill.
It did, and we didn't pull back on investing either, because even though we weren't putting money into investing at that time, it still led us to be able to buy a home at 22 because we weren't in debt, because we made those sacrifices of, putting our pride aside and saying, you know what, we're going to be doing these, whatever it takes to make this bill we're going to do. And there's no shame in that.
And at that point for us, it was making those payments was our investment.
Yeah.
Because we were under contract in May or June to buy our first house of 2008. I was interning at Merrill in the summer when that crash happened, and then we closed in August.
Yeah.
End of July, early August. So we were just bought at the height of the market, and we watched it crash, and everything that we did was just keeping that property because when we sold that a few years ago, that's what got us our first duplex in Alaska. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome. Like, we put in the work, it did it for us, but we always diversified our income. I don't invest in real estate in the stock market. I invest in the hard asset because I'm tied to that as a career. And then we have other things that we do as well.
So just know that, investing doesn't always mean, yes, you should aim for 3 to 6 months, like we said.
Yes, always.
If you can. If you can't, and, the minimum that you can do is stay afloat and keep your bills paid.
Sometimes that's it.
That's what you can do, and that's keeping, you're not pulling back from investing by doing that, in a sense.
Yeah. So you don't want to pull back on investing. You want to get smarter about it. So if you've got your emergency fund, you're set, and you're spending money into the market constantly, well, just be smart about where that money's going. Are you investing in a diversified portfolio? In a diverse portfolio, you get rid of the external risk. Well, you get rid of the internal risk of all the company operations. You're only subjecting yourself to external risk. That's market forces, international stuff. So a diversified portfolio would be something like an equally weighted S&P index. When I say equal weight, I don't mean just go out and buy an S&P ETF, because that fund might have 40% of it in 7 stocks and 60% of it in 493 stocks. You want an equal weighted portfolio to be diverse or diversified. So
that's why there's a lot of talk about the Magnificent Seven.
There is a lot of talk about the Magnificent Seven because we've got 7 stocks basically pulling valuation up behind it. And they're all kind
of in the same industry.
It's all technology, AI.
So talking about the eggs in the basket, what happens then?
If you're diversified, you have your investments in healthcare, energy, consumer discretionary. Those are the things that never change. You may have some exposure to tech. You may have some exposure to small cap or smaller companies that could have faster growth. You have blue chips. Those are companies like Coca-Cola that have been around forever and they pay dividends. So just be smart about what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, get yourself a financial advisor. Get somebody who is not fee-based. So not somebody who's just going to sell you mutual funds.
You don't need to be a millionaire to have a financial advisor.
Just a real financial advisor. You can put $50 a week into an investment account with a real financial advisor. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but you know that you're in the right stuff. And there are other people out there, some professionals that will just do a consult with you. They charge for the consult, and they'll tell you where your investments need to be.
I think a lot of people get afraid of financial advisors because they think of them as just like salesmen, right? And then that they're just going to pick the stocks that they want to pick.
Because most of them are.
I know. And that's for the lay person, who didn't go to school for finance. Mm-hmm. How are they to even differentiate between this? Because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do a quick Google search. What comes up? I don't know the difference.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you my story with it because I didn't really fully understand that difference until I started in the industry.
Okay.
So I interned with Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch, back then, pre-Bank of America, was a true financial advisory firm. Right? We could do covered calls, all sorts of crazy financial moves, things that were very advanced and complex.
I don't even know what a covered call is.
Just a trading strategy and options. So when I was getting my licensing, I ended up working with a company called Waddell & Reed. I don't believe they're around anymore.
No.
But publicly, they were traded as Ivy funds. So they had public funds that you can invest in on Wall Street. And then we had our private version of them, which were Waddell & Reed branded, that you could only get through an advisor. Well, start off, I go through my training and get everything going, and I realize that after I'm just about done with my onboarding experience, that the investment advice and positioning that I recommended for one person was outside of what they wanted me to do. So I actually lost all of my compensation because I didn't put them into a Waddell & Reed fund. I suggested actually a few different stocks. And to get started, well, it was what they wanted. It was what the client wanted.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting into a position where I lost the training program compensation because I wasn't selling their mutual funds. And then they didn't have commissions broken down into the compensation. So when I traded stocks, I wouldn't necessarily make any money on it, which was kind of insane if it was outside of a fund.
So how does the layperson differentiate this? Like, how do you just engage with somebody and then all of a sudden if they are suggesting things wrong, then
so
how do you tell?
The best way I can explain it is if you are talking to somebody about buying a mutual fund that their company owns or operates, then you're probably not talking to a true financial advisor. You're talking to a financial sales representative. Okay, there's a difference. A financial advisor has a fiduciary duty to you. They are going to put you in the product that makes sense to you and has a lower fee structure, the lowest fee structure product to accomplish your goals. That's why you want a financial advisor. Sometimes that might be that a lot of them use Charles Schwab funds, which, we have Mom's financial advisor does a great job. He's a small office in Woodstock, and they are dedicated financial advisors. You want to look for people with letters after their name, like CFP. Okay, CFP stands for Certified Financial Planner. You want to look for somebody who has a real securities license, right? Series 6, Series 7, Series 66, 65, or 63. Those are the 5 of them. If they don't have those, then they're oftentimes a glorified life insurance salesperson. They can put into some mutual funds, but they're not going to be really taking the time to do risk assessments, and those people don't necessarily understand the actual market. When I went through training to become a financial advisor, there was a car salesman in there. I had spent 4 years studying finance.
Yeah.
And there was somebody who was coming from selling automobiles to selling financial products.
I'm sure they did well.
They might have. I mean,
yeah.
Sales, if you got the silver tongue, right, sales can be a gold mine for anybody.
Yeah.
But the difference is you've got to be transparent. You've got to be honest. You've got to understand what people's goals are and then try and fit a solution that meets their goals. So I am no longer a financial advisor. Those licenses, it lapsed long ago. But
not the knowledge.
The knowledge hasn't. And in real estate, I work with a lot of people on the investment side of things. So whether in commercial real estate, we're looking at financial numbers. We are creating valuations on businesses.
It's the biggest purchase of a person's life, right? I mean, yeah, of course you're going to want somebody who knows what they're talking about, who knows the finance strategies behind it too. I mean,
yeah,
I feel better
with the volatility in our market today. One of the safe havens is real estate. So real estate is historically less volatile than the stock market. We're seeing that definitely today. Even though interest rates are higher, if you're in cash, you can move into real estate relatively easily, and then you can move between real estate assets without a tax burden using a 1031. So it's easy to flow things around as well. If the deal makes sense, it's a good time to be in real estate if you're not dealing with taking out a loan. And multifamily is a good sector here. So we've got lots of development opportunities. Private equity is growing hard. Our commercial team is looking to raise funds with a lot of private equity groups and developers right now.
Look into Gwinnett, Fulton, Forsyth, Cherokee, Henry.
Well, they're using my data to help them and help their developers and their clients find areas where they're going to be building the next subdivisions.
I can't believe Gwinnett's going to explode that much.
I think it's insane.
2060 seems so far away though.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
But it's 2025.
Did you know that if they made a movie like Dazed and Confused today, it would be based in 2008?
That's gross.
Yeah, you're welcome. Feel old.
There wouldn't be air raids. There'd be like recession raids or something.
Of 2008? It would just be about everybody losing their condo in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So, as we're getting ready for this, we hope that you are thinking these things through. Start making the cuts now. You mentioned earlier, before we wrap this up, that there are self-fulfilling prophecies when it comes to recessions.
Yeah.
So
that's why people don't want to say, it's like Voldemort. They don't want to say the R word because of that.
With the pullback, with the tariffs, that's causing a shockwave. People are stopping. They're waiting on big deals. They're pausing IPOs. That wait means that they're not investing. That lack of investment means that the jobs don't get hired and people get let go because we're not earning as much as we were.
The machine's not working fast.
And when the machine starts slowing down, you can't stop it mid-slowdown. It's going to continue slowing down until it unwinds itself to a point where it will build itself back up.
Because of momentum.
I don't think we've seen the end of this. I think that there's a big struggle ahead. I think within 6 weeks, we'll have an idea of where we're going. And then within 6 months, we'll probably see most of the fallout. But these things can go up to a year. So
it's a lot of data.
There's a lot happening. It's a little less of a puff piece for our show this week, but I think that there's been a lot of concern. There's been a lot of engagement on some of my comments on social media, and I wanted to put this out here. So,
what's your handle?
Let's see. YouTube, you can find us at East Cobb Evans. Same thing with Facebook is me for East Cobb Evans, and then everywhere else it's at Real Chris Evans, but it's REEL because I would rather be fishing. So,
not for the gar.
No, not for the gar. I'd rather be in a river with my fly rod somewhere, doing the funny little dance and looking like a weird person and hoping that I catch a fish.
Well, that's it for today. Till next time.
Thank you so much
for
watching. Oh, like and subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Share this podcast. If you're listening on audio, come on over to YouTube. You can watch us. It's a little bit more engaging. Have a great day, y'all. We'll see you next week.